Hi everyone, this is Ivo Jeremaz, grape grower and winemaker for Grgich Hills Estate Winery here in Napa Valley. Also, I want to welcome you to our first virtual Croatian Extravaganza, and I truly hope that this is going to be first and only one ever. But this is best we can do for this year, for safety of all of us. Most of you have been here in Yantville. We are still standing on a Yantville lawn, and behind me is our beautiful Merlot vineyard. It's a beautiful day here in Napa Valley, and we are almost at Veration. If I can bring you a bit closer, you would see that the berries are still green, not quite turning color, but it's coming soon. We are blessed with a wonderful vintage so far. Grapes are very healthy. We had below average rainfall, and I love those seasons because when we have too much rain, plants grow too strong. So they are healthiest I ever seen them. Leaves are beautiful, crop is modest, and we have high hopes that this 2020 will be wonderful vintage. Today also I would like to share with you a few wines that we will obviously pouring for you, or you are able to buy them. There are just 3 out of many that are available to you. So first one will be our 2017 Fume Blanc. You know story about name Fume Blanc? My uncle Mike Grgich worked for Robert Mondavi, who invented name. So when we made our first Sauvignon Blanc in 1980, we just named it Fume. By the way, you also know this, we are also a estate winery, which means that everything that we make, everything that you taste and buy from us comes from our own vineyards. We have 5 estate vineyards. If you go down about 20 miles south, we have 2 vineyards in Carneros and American Canyon. So all whites, Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay, are planted down there when it's much cooler than here in Yantville or Rutherford. Then we are standing in Yantville. We have 63 acres of prime land, perfectly suited for Cabernet, and bit of Merlot behind me. Then in Rutherford we have Cabernet, and then Zinfandel and Petit Syrah we grow in Calistoga, where Mike lives. So Napa is a wonderful place to grow grapes, one of the most prestigious area in the world because of incredible diversity of soil. We had earthquakes and volcanoes for hundreds of millions of years here, which those forces, natural forces, create this wonderfully complex soil. Secondly, climate. This way west 40 miles you are at Pacific Ocean. Last time I checked, temperature of Pacific is only 51 degrees toward Bodega Bay. So this morning was 51 degrees here. So you can see that we have this wonderful coolness of night and morning, and then in afternoon today will probably be 85 degrees. So we have everything that we need for top-notch grapes. Back to our Fume Blanc. It's incredible when you smell it. You have this lemon zest, lime, which is first to hit you, and then there's tropical fruit. 2017 was a bit warmer year, and I believe in Napa Valley there's no bad seasons. There's only different seasons, and that's what we love about wines. Every wine, every vintage should be a bit different. If it's not different, it'll be boring. Then all wines will be like Coca-Cola. You would not taste them. You would just drink them. But as it is, we have differences. And again, 2017 is a bit riper than 16 or 18, and it shows in your glass. Also, when you sip wine, put it in the mouth, there's a density, there's a heaviness, which all comes from a bit more riper grapes due to warmer 2017. So in the vineyards, I've already told you how important is to own land and own grapes and not buy them. Secondly, farming is even more important, how you farm, because all flavors that we get hopefully capture in this glass of wine did not come from my head, from my idea. It came from grapes. Winemaker has to be skillful not to ruin flavors, but winemaker cannot impose flavors into average grapes. Knowing all this, we are practicing organic farming and also something called regenerative farming, which is something that is even step or two above organic. So organic farming doesn't rely on these synthetic fertilizers, doesn't rely on these awful synthetic fungicides and pesticides that, or herbicides like Roundup that kills all microbes. Regenerative farming is based on health of soil, meaning that soil has to be alive, full of microbes. So microbes are key component for health of plants and best flavors. So my main job is to be very friendly to microbes, feed them, and then in turn these microbes feed our plants and also protect them from diseases. So this is something that we started doing a year ago, and this year we always fight mildew in South Napa, and this year there's no mildew. So I'm thrilled to report to you that this farming in 2-3 years will be able to produce incredible, even better quality grapes. Also will be free of diseases. And can you imagine it without using any of these poisons? So that's something that is new, and I'm very excited to report to you. In a cellar, when we make wine, also we practice non-interventional winemaking, meaning we do not use commercial yeast. So all our wines are fermented with natural yeast, which there's plenty on the grapes if you don't kill them with these fungicides. And instead of fermenting with one single strain of commercial yeast, there might be 50 or 100 different strains of yeast every year different ones. And part of personality of that vintage comes from different strains of yeast. So we encourage wild yeast, and we are very successful in finishing fermentations. So this Sauvignon Blanc, after we pick it at night, which is very important because we do not want to oxidize our juice. We move juice in foeders, mostly foeders which are either 900 or 1500 gallons big oval vessels made out of wood, French oak, but bigger ones than barrels. Barrels are only 60 gallons. Fermentation is over in 2 weeks, and then for next 5 months we keep Sauvignon Blanc in suspension with yeast, which is called surly, and mix it occasionally. The result is wonderful crispness for acidity, and all this, we get this limey, citrusy overtones, but also there's a density, there's a roundness that comes from raising Sauvignon Blanc on its own yeast. The result is a very complex wine that also has potential to age. You see, this is 2017. We do not rush to release our whites after 3 months of bottling, because they definitely need a bit bottling age to truly excel. So that would be 2017 Fumé Blanc. Next wine that we are presenting today is our 2017 Milenko selection. That Chardonnay, that the grapes come mostly from Carneros, and we have 3 Chardonnays. We have Napa Valley Chardonnay, we have Milenko selection Chardonnay, we have Paris tasting Chardonnay. So this one for me is most complex, even though lots of people love Paris tasting. Paris tasting is a bit richer, creamier. This one, for me, this one is more chiseled, more elegant wine, and I love this wine. This wine also is overwhelmingly fermented in those foeders, so there's no influence of oak. And by the way, oak should be cradle. Oak is not flavoring agent. Many people use oak as a flavoring agent to add oakiness, vanillin, whatever or some whiskey lactones into wine. We use oak as a cradle to enhance flavors in our wine. Again, the grapes are grown in Carneros. Vineyard is now 31 years old, and age of grape wines is very important. The older the vineyard, the more complexity, more profound quality you get from the old vines. That's why it's important to farm organically, so you do not have to pull your vineyard after 20 years or 22 as is practiced now in Napa Valley. It's a tragedy. 31-year-old vineyard, mostly all Venticlone. All Venticlone is one of the most revered Chardonnay clones. Winemaking, grapes are picked at night, also crushed, whole cluster crushed in the winery, and then we transfer juice to barrels of foeders. The fermentation happens in oak with wild yeast. Takes about 3 to 4 weeks for Chardonnay to finish. That's another advantage of wild yeast. Wild yeast, there's a lot less yeast in the juice than with commercial yeast that you put pounds and pounds of it, and then fermentation goes very slow, just like cooking slowly something on 2 hours versus dumping something in microwave for 3 minutes. There's no way that quality will be same. So that's slow fermentation is very important to capture all these nuances and beautiful flavors. Then we keep Chardonnay 10 months on its own sediment surly with mixing to again create this complexity and richness. 2017 again, this one has wonderful complex aroma of citrus. Still citrus is predominant here, but there's mango, there's more tropical fruit. I get apricots, white peach. It's very complex, very jolly wine. So as I said before, this is what is most fun about winemaking. Every vintage is different. What truly marks great wine is minerality, and both of these white wines have incredible minerality. Which what is minerality? Some people say flintiness. If you ever had two flinty stones and rub them at each other, you get this flinty smell, which is very desirable in Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. So wine obviously is fine to enjoy now. If you have a little patience, put a few bottles aside. This will this wine will age gracefully for 5 to 10 years easily. Our last wine that we are presenting today is 2015 Zinfandel. Zinfandel is a very important variety for Grgich family. When Mike Grgich came here in Napa Valley in '58 and saw first Zin vineyard, he thought that he never left Croatia. He thought this is what we have in Croatia, and for next 40 years he tried to prove that Zin originally came from Croatia. At that time, 40-50 years ago, Zin was called mystery grape. Nobody knew origins. It had to be from Europe, but they did not know from one country. And finally, in 2001, Mike was mostly right. They found this ancient old vineyard that only, I believe, 19 or 20 plants were different than everything around. They did DNA in Croatia, and it was identical to Zin. And then they sent it to UC Davis, which they did again DNA with better equipment. It was confirmed. Since then, it was proven that Zin originally came from Croatia. At first, in Croatia, they call it Crljenak, but then after further research, a few years after, they found out that 400 years ago, that variety was called Tribidrag. So now official name is Tribidrag because that was first known name for this variety. So very noble history. At least 400 years grown in Europe. The vineyard is in Calistoga, where Mike lives. It's very much, actually, he bought that property because it reminded him of Croatia. Soil is reddish, rocky, which suggests lots of iron, same as in Croatia. And even though Calistoga can be very hot, but Mike is up 800-900 feet above Calistoga in the hills. So there's always a little bit moderating cold wind at night. So it's not as hot as in downtown Calistoga. When we make Zinfandel, we try to pick ripe grapes, but not overripe. Many Zinfandels today, they are 16, 17 alcohol. This one is barely 15, which for Zinfandel is considered modest. We like to make balanced wine, which means that we don't like high alcohol. So this one, immediately it hits you with a beautiful combination of black and white fruit. I get lots of strawberries, raspberries. On the palate, wine is very smooth. It flows easily, and for me, Zinfandel is wine can be served with chicken, fish, anything. So in Croatia, in where I'm from, Dalmatia coast, we drink red wine with just everything, and so it's probably one of the most universal wines to go with any kind of food you want. So once again, I'm so sorry that we cannot share cevapcici and lamb on the stick from you this year. Hopefully I see you in person next year. Thank you for joining. Živjeli!